Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the I Know a Guy podcast. On this episode, I welcome Major League Baseball player Kirby Snead. Kirby is a relief pitcher for the Oakland Athletics. He talks about his journey, talks about playing in a small town, the local high school, Santa Fe High School, where he was a star pitcher. Then he goes on to play for the University of Florida Gators and what that time was like for him in college. And then moving on to the major leagues. Talks about being drafted, playing in the minor league, and the call that came that would put him on the mound 48 hours later at Fenway Park against the Boston Red Sox. It's a phenomenal podcast. Kirby's a very, very humble person, a very thankful person, and he shares this journey with us, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode of the I Know a Guy podcast. Kirby Snead's in the house.
I'm here.
Dude, how's life?
It's good, man. It's good. Yeah, season just got over, so I'm in that off-season mode, just trying to relax, rest my bones a little bit. But yeah, man, just hanging out.
Every little boy's dream that plays ball on the diamond wants to go to be a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah.
And you've had that opportunity.
Yeah, it's been pretty special, man. I've been very fortunate. Have a lot of good people in my corner. Yeah, just obviously being left-handed helped too growing up. So, but yeah, I had a lot of good mentors, a lot of good people that, dedicated their time to me, especially my parents and, a few coaches here and there. So yeah, I've been very blessed.
So I've known you going back to when you were in high school, and your demeanor and how you carry yourself, you're sort of kind of a calm and cool cat, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But your dad...
Yeah,
not so much.
He as I've gotten older, he's honestly more calm than I am now.
Okay.
I think with him, like, he was just so passionate about anything that me and my brother wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as soon as I got into baseball and I realized that I had a little bit of talent and I could possibly play college baseball or what have you. I think that he just like fully bought in, to me and to what I was doing. So, he threw with me every single day out in the yard. He would drive me all over the map to go places and do things. And so I think with him, a lot of people know him for his, short temper, but at the same time, he's one of the most loyal people. I mean, he's done so much for me. So, yeah, it's just funny. We used to joke about all the stories of him, having, going crazy and, doing all these things. But for him, man, I think he was just so invested in what I was doing and trying to help me achieve my dream. And, I'm obviously super thankful for that he's been around for so many years. And, he just retired. So I'm hoping that he can get to some ballparks, next year and get around. So it'll be fun.
I remember, so you were in high school, you'd be on the mound. I enjoyed going to the games. The games were relaxing to me. I'd get my box seat up in the press box.
Yeah.
Maybe I was announcing every now and then.
Yeah.
And your dad would, if I recall correctly, and none of it's bad. It's passion.
Yeah,
I saw passion in your dad. And you're on the mound, and your dad, I would say he would be standing somewhere behind it. What I remember was near where the dugout was, where he could like just see this direct line, and he'd just like be saying, "Come on, Kirby!"
Yeah.
And I would never. And if I was a fellow father whose son was, I wouldn't correct. Hey, that's your son.
Yeah.
He knows what makes you tick or doesn't, makes you go. He's seen maybe the better sides of your game, and when he doesn't see something he likes, he's trying to get you there. So I enjoyed it. I just remember the passion. So that was awesome.
No, yeah. There's been numerous times. I remember in high school, come and set on the mound, and I'm looking, and I can see him, and me and him are making eye contact. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a bad thing. It was just kind of like, okay, like I said before, it's just his just bought into what I was doing, and he saw that I had something, and a lot of coaches that I was working with, when he would hear and listen, and like he would pick up on, because he never played baseball growing up. So as soon as I got into it and doing all that stuff, man, he was just so bought in to what I was doing. So I think like he was being a dad for the most part, but also he was trying to teach me that, hey, like you gotta whatever you've been taught, just keep doing that, keep doing these little things to help you get to where you want to be. So I think, obviously sometimes it was a little bit harsher than it should have been, but I'm super thankful for that because it taught me to, have this demeanor of, if I don't do what I'm supposed to be doing, then, I'm not going to be achieving things that I want to achieve.
He's passionate and he's got a fire. There's a Florida football plays Kentucky and loses this past weekend.
Yeah.
And I didn't respond, but somebody on my Facebook, because I kind of was like, Florida's young. I can see we got thrown all over the field, and someone says, just enjoy the young guys playing. I don't understand why you guys get fired up.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, oh no, like I'm not dumping on Florida.
Yeah.
But at the same time, no, it's like this is life, and this is life for
yeah.
And I think probably for you too, like it means more to me. That was when I've had the opportunity to coach players over the years, I didn't understand. We'd go play a local school rivalry or whatever, and some kids just didn't care, and I'm like, it doesn't mean anything to you. This pisses me off.
Yeah, and I think as I've gotten older and I've been around older players, they just kind of teach you like, hey man, like this time period in your life, obviously I've been playing baseball since I was 5 years old, but to be a professional baseball player, most guys don't last past 5 years, So for me, I'm just trying to enjoy every moment that I can while I'm here and doing it. And I think that, like with the football team, I think like I've been a huge Gator fan my whole life. My dad, I think that's the only thing my dad gets mad at these days is when Gators lose.
Yeah.
Other than that, he's been pretty calm. But I think just for those guys, man, like realizing how much the University of Florida means to a lot of people in this area and a lot of people, past players, like the relationships that I made at University of Florida will never be broken. A lot of my teammates that I have, I'm still very close with. I'll see them every off season when I can, and so I think just for them to, obviously, I'm not a football guru. I don't know much about, but I think just from the mental side of it, I think like they need to realize how much, I think just playing with the Gator emblem on your helmet means a lot to a lot of kids in this area, a lot of people in this area, and so to see the team kind of, I wouldn't say they're not trying, but just a bad performance, it kind of leaves a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. But
I grew up huge Gators fan, and in 1997, which is I'm 14 years old at this time, Florida loses 2 games that year. We lose to Tennessee, we lose to Georgia, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Because it may have been LSU. I apologize, but I remember the Georgia loss, and I was so pissed. I went around snapping branches off trees in the neighborhood. I'd literally be in tears crying.
Yeah.
1995, we're playing Nebraska, and it was Tommy Frazier. I want to say it was the quarter. Dude, I was literally balled up on the couch in tears, and my mom's like, "It's gonna be okay," and I'm like, "No, it's not okay. It's just not."
Yeah.
So I don't cry anymore about it, and I kind of accept more where we are. So talk to me about. So I talked about Major League Baseball. We're gonna get back into that. You get the call that you got an offer from the University of Florida, right? You're a lefty pitcher for Santa Fe High School, Alachua, Florida, and you're getting a scholarship offer to Florida. Did you have any other scholarship opportunities at the time?
I didn't technically have any offers, but I went to a camp at Clemson and I really liked it, and I remember driving back with my dad and kind of telling him, I really like this school. I think that, I would like to play there. I'd like to do this. And, to him, it went one ear and out the other because I was still talking to Florida at the time. So I think that like, he was just, he was interested in all the things that I was interested in, but, playing for Florida was a big deal for him and I. So, that summer, it was right before my junior year. I was about to start at Santa Fe and I got a call from, technically I wasn't allowed to talk to Sully at the time as a recruit. So he called my travel coach that summer. We were in Atlanta playing a tournament, and he called him, and I got on the phone with him, and they offered me, and I immediately committed. As a kid, I didn't really. I kind of wanted to go see other things and maybe go play somewhere else, but like in the back of my mind, there was always that, like, if I have a chance to play at Florida, I have to do it. Like I can't turn it down. And so as soon as it came up, immediately I had to, and it was the best decision I ever made, obviously. But
of course, and I can understand why you'd like Clemson too. I've been to the campus one time, and it's got a small town feel.
Yeah,
just north of Anderson, South Carolina. and it's just I went to a night game a few years ago. It was
Okay, yeah.
Clemson and Duke football,
Wow.
and I was like, this place is cool.
Yeah,
This place is cool.
yeah. If I'm in Charleston this offseason, I really want to try to drive up there and hit a game, but
Nice.
we'll see if we have the time for it. But.
So you go to Florida, and what's the change like? What's it like to be? I use the word training at high school sort of loosely, but you do play a lot of what's the term? You travel ball and you have to cook. Okay, but then you get to college. What's the difference in training?
I would say the training is just more consistent.
Okay.
I think I think when I was in high school, I had certain days I knew I was going to pitch, this and that as a starter, so it was way easier. I knew I had a better timeline, and then I get to school and it's like 100 miles an hour. I'm doing tutoring, I got class, I got practice for 4 hours. I mean, it's just that's the thing about Sully and playing there. It's really tough. It's kind of, I wouldn't say it's like kind of like football schedule. You're on the field all day, but there's just a lot of time that you can lose quickly when you're not handling it. And so I think that's kind of where I had to catch up. My freshman year I had a good year. I was happy, and then sophomore year I come back and I know the lay of the land, and it's kind of. Yeah, I mean, it's just those 3 years that I was there, I think it went by so fast that I wish I would have had a little bit more time to just sit back and enjoy like what I was doing. It was a huge deal looking back at it now, being able to play there and just do all the things I wanted to do. And, that was the only goal I set out for when I was, 5, 6 years old. Obviously I didn't know at the time. It was kind of like a fantasy, but when I got into high school and realized that, I had talent and, I could do it, it was just really special. And, I think those 3 years, I remember a lot of things, but it also is just, man, it went by so fast that I didn't fully like grasp, I think sometimes I was having too much fun instead of trying to,
It's hard to enjoy the
it
moments
worked
when
out, but
Do you are you familiar with any records that you have at Florida at all?
I don't know, honestly. I know if I would have stayed my senior year, I would have probably broken the appearance record, which is, how many times you pitch in a season.
You're actually I have one of them here.
Okay.
You're ranked third all time in appearances in a single season.
Wow.
For 2016.
Yeah.
41 appearances.
Yeah, that year I led the whole NCAA, which was kind of cool.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, it was cool.
I was going through Florida's record book, and I'm looking, and all you see when you look at all the records like 1989, 1990, you rarely see things in the 2000s in the records. And there's Kirby Snead, which is really cool. So Florida baseball, you decide to move to the draft after your junior year.
Mm-hmm.
Toronto Blue Jays give you a call.
Mm-hmm.
We think of draft night, right? You're thinking big party and lots.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Draft, I didn't really have a party or anything. I kind of was just hanging out with my buddies at the house in UF, and I knew I wasn't getting drafted too high. I wasn't. I was a good college pitcher, but I knew there was other guys that were more talented. So I figured I would have to wait a little while to hear my name. But I mean, I got a call in the 10th round by the Blue Jays. I figured I'd either go to them or the Red Sox, which was kind of nice. Those are the only two teams I talked to a lot of teams, but the only two teams that consistently were, texting me and asking me how I was doing throughout the season was Blue Jays and Red Sox. So, yeah, when I got the call from them, man, it was just an awesome feeling. I just all the work that I had put in, and obviously like that dream come true feeling was it was there, and just super thankful for the opportunity.
So you get Toronto calls you, they draft you. Do they have like a roadmap? Like, hey, we're going to have this person you're going to talk to, and you're going to fly into the organization, and we're going to get you a ticket to come up here. Mm-hmm. How does all that work?
Yeah, so it happens pretty fast. I was drafted on I want to say it was like Saturday or Sunday. No, I was drafted on a Thursday. Sorry, and then soon after our draft, we were still playing. We had the super regional against Florida State, so we win that, go to Omaha. And so we go 0-2 that year in Omaha. And I think it was like 4 days after I was done playing, I was already down. Mm. So usually when guys get drafted, they get sent to like the spring training facility. So I was down in Dunedin for about a week, kind of just like getting the lay of the land, throwing a couple bullpens, just kind of like, easing into it. And then I got shipped off to the low A team, which was in Lansing, Michigan. And that was probably 2 weeks after I had just finished my last out with Florida. So yeah, it happens pretty fast. But at that, when I was 21 at the time, 22, 21, yeah. I mean, at that time, man, you're just like, I'll go anywhere. I just want the opportunity.
Sure.
So like it was a fun experience for sure.
So they gave you a signing bonus of $125,000. At least that's what's on the public record. I'm not sure if there's anything else.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. What do you like? I'm sure people like your family's like, okay, dude, don't go out and just blow it.
Yeah, my parents are pretty good with me on that. They kind of taught me to keep that. So the only thing I bought was a new MacBook because I thought whenever I finished school I kind of need a new computer. So
sure.
So I was easy with it. I don't really need much.
So what's the correct terminology when you say there's single A, double A, triple A?
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then you have the majors.
Yeah.
Were you playing at all when Tim Tebow was playing?
Yeah, so it's actually funny. I in high A, which was the Florida State League, so we were playing all over the spring training facilities in Florida.
Okay.
He was playing in Port St. Lucie, which is the Mets high A, and actually Pete Alonso was there too, who was my roommate at Florida. So those guys, yeah, I played against them all in 2017, 2018 in Double A. We were there together up in the Northeast. And then AAA played him.
Did you ever pitch against him or no?
I pitched against him 3 times, and the first time he hit the ball right back to me.
Okay.
So that was kind of cool, running down, first base just with him, with Tebow.
Did you ever tackle him? Okay.
No, he's very I wouldn't say shy, but he's very reserved into himself, So I remember we played him in high A, and I got a picture with him just, and I wasn't trying to fanboy him, what I mean? It's just, so I just went up to him and said, hey man, I'm from Gainesville, just a huge fan of yours, just, super, crazy Gator fan growing up. So just appreciate you. And obviously I hope you best of luck. And so, yeah, I mean, he was a good player. Obviously it wasn't, it had been a while for him with baseball when he got back into it. So, but it was actually funny to see his progression from the levels that we played at. He got so much better so quickly. I think it just, at the time he was just, I guess I wouldn't say old, but he was just older than a lot of guys that the Mets probably wanted to bring up. So,
well, there's almost like a following of Tim Tebow. It's almost like what Deion Sanders has with Colorado in a way. The media's following him. It's like, I'm not trying to say Tim Tebow's Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan went and left Chicago and retired in the 90s, and he went and played, in the minors, and people were kind of like, whoa, Michael Jordan, and then he strikes out, and like, see, he's not that good. It's like, you want him to fail or something? Yeah. But then he comes back, of course, and wins 3 more championships with the Bulls. And that's why you see, and I'm not doing this again, Jake, but you know how I feel about LeBron James. One Jordan jersey, another Jordan jersey, Gator baseball, your good Gator baseball jersey there for Kirby Snead to sign, hopefully. I just want to get it on the record. It's recorded, So Toronto Blue Jays, you go to there. You get called up to the majors at some point.
Yeah, 2021, July of 2021, I made it up.
So how's that call work? Do you remember where you were?
Yeah,
where were you?
Yeah, that year in 2021, our AAA team was one of the best in all of minor league baseball. We every pitcher there was doing extremely well. All the hitters were doing well. So we had a really, really good team. And a lot of guys weren't getting called up, so it was kind of frustrating for a lot of us. In July came around, and I was pitching really well. I mean, this is probably the best season I've had in minor league baseball. So kind of frustrated, but also, thankful at the same time. I'm 2020 year. A lot of us didn't even get to play, with the COVID and everything. So I was trying to keep, my positive outlook on it. And so I was honestly pretty frustrated at the time. And I remember we were at dinner, and I had a California number call me because I didn't have my manager's number saved in my phone. He got a new phone or something or other. And I get this call. I'm like, oh, whatever. I put the phone down. I'm still eating, and get another call from the same number. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is important. I call it, go outside, and he was telling me, yeah. So at the time, the Blue Jays were playing in Boston, the Red Sox stadium. So yeah, he called and said I was going to meet the team there the next day. So where we were playing, I was only 3 hours from Boston. So I just got a little car service to Boston that next morning and met the team. Yeah, it was awesome, man. Just
Did you sleep that night?
Oh no, I maybe got 2 hours. Yeah. It's just like, well, at first I called so many people to tell them what had happened, and it was kind of getting my parents, seeing if they could catch a flight up there the next day. Um, yeah, so I mean, it was pretty surreal, man. It was a moment I'll never forget for sure.
So you called up to the major. So you're now all of a sudden you're you're hanging out with all these other guys who do it every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they at one time had to work their way up, but
Yeah.
and some of them maybe were so good in
Mhm.
college they went up there and never went down, I guess, right? So what's that like? Was there a game that night?
Yeah, there was a game the next day. Fortunately, I didn't have to throw. I was so tired, and obviously at the time I was so excited, and I didn't even feel tired, but I knew that I was a little 2 hours of sleep. But um, yeah, a lot of the guys with the Jays, I had a lot of good relationships with them. A lot of guys, that team in 21, a lot of the guys that were up in the big leagues I had played with at every level. So I'd known them, had a relationship with them. Um, yeah, I mean, it was special, man. It really was. A lot of guys that had grinded together, and obviously I'm still really close with a lot of those guys. So, yeah, it was just a surreal moment.
Are you what's the stadium called in Boston? Because
Fenway.
Fenway, thank you. So at Fenway, you're in the bullpen
Mm.
in the outfield,
Yeah.
and the lights are on.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah, that night. So it's a little side story. My dad growing up, for some reason, always watched the Red Sox play,
Mhm.
and that was like his team. So me growing up, I was a huge fan of the Red Sox. The '04 World Series when they had David Ortiz and a lot of guys that I honestly watched every single game that year. I remember it. I was 10 years old, and it was like I wore a David Ortiz jersey every other day to school in middle school. So just and me and my dad spent a couple summers going up to Fenway as a kid, just going there. Every time they come play at Tropicana in Tampa, we would go there. So for me to, my first experience in the major leagues, to be at that park, and it's actually cool. Lenny DiNardo was doing the radio broadcast, or maybe it was a TV broadcast for the network up there. So I remember when I got there, I had a message from him. So I mean, it was just it was just like a full circle moment.
How
Man.
cool is that?
Man, it was so cool.
So
And just-
Lenny DiNardo played baseball at the same school
Yeah.
you did, but he was about 20 years prior,
Yeah.
right? And he goes on to actually win a World Series with the Red Sox.
Yeah,
And now he works for the organization up there.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. He lives up there. Yeah. So it was. I mean, it was just so cool. Like I remember getting to the field, and him and I met each other out on the field and just kind of talked before the game, and so like it was just
That's
man,
special.
Yeah, I was just taking it all in. Yeah, and it was kind of funny. My first game, we were down. I know we were up like 3-2 in the 8th inning, and one of their guys hit a go-ahead home run. And I remember, obviously, I was disappointed that we were gonna lose, but at the same time, it's like, man, like this is awesome. I'm looking around, like the fans are going crazy. They sell out every game, so it was a cool experience. And then obviously, the next night, getting to pitch out in the stadium, it was awesome, man.
So the next night, where's that game at?
It's here.
Okay,
It's
so it's a 3-game,
It was like a 4-game series.
4-game series.
Yeah.
So, what's that moment like? The door. I'm imagining John Rocker
Yeah.
from the Braves, like the door flies open, you
Yeah.
just full sprint straight to the
Well,
mound.
it was funny. I joke like, usually for relievers, when I'm sitting in the bullpen, you get warm up down the pen. I was telling guys, I don't even need to warm up. I can just get up off this chair and go out there. I'm so amped, So I think just running out, it sounds very cliche, but like running out, I think the whole time I was running out, I was just like, man, I'm so thankful for like just the journey that I've taken to get here. And it just makes you want it more. I think that's what I tell a lot of guys. And it's cool. Like once you get to that point of making it up, you can now tell these young guys that are coming up, like, hey man, like, just keep grinding, keep doing your thing. It's going to happen. And I think just for that, I think it just gave me a little reassurance that, I belonged there and that I, all the work I'd put in, wasn't for anything or wasn't for nothing. So,
right.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm trying to live vicariously through you if you can't tell. All right. And I grew up, and I only baseball I ever watched, to be honest with you, was in the '90s with Atlanta Braves.
Okay.
Huge Chipper
Yeah,
Jones
yeah.
fan, Ryan Kless. I still have all their sports cards. I have all big sports cards collection, and So for me, it was sort of football. I love football. I love coaching basketball, but I loved watching football. I'm like, oh man, what if I was a quarterback? Like, now you're really more like the size of an offensive lineman. I was like, that stinks. I was thinking something different.
Yeah.
But I've been to a couple of baseball games, and one was a Chicago White Sox game in Chicago. It got rained out, but the turf is beautiful. I've been to a lot of college baseball games in Florida, but the turf is perfect. The lights are on. It's an incredible atmosphere, and you're on a world stage. You're there.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, the lights are on. These are real umpires. Like, and I know you wouldn't do this, Kirby, but like if you said, Ben, this is the last game you're ever going to pitch, like I would like do something. I would like grab the mound. I'd get thrown out. Like I have to have the umpire light me up just to do it. Talk about some of those little nuanced things that happens in Major League Baseball with pitchers. Like the pitcher, something happens. Maybe the batter upsets you, does something stupid. Next thing you know, the pitcher throws the ball behind him. Mm-hmm. Umpire throws the pitcher out. There's some unspoken rules in baseball, and are they unspoken? You know them from growing up, or does somebody actually say, "Hey, look, here, this happens. This happens"?
It's a mixture of both. I think there's a lot of unwritten rules that you learn growing up. You know, not to showboat or anything, but
flipping the bat or something.
Yeah, I think once you get into like Major League Baseball, I think there's a lot of rules that a lot of, you know, as like going into pro ball you never knew, but at the same time once you get in there, it's like there's rules, but there's also these unwritten rules as to where you don't want to do certain things. You know, for example, like if you're up 8, don't bunt on another team. You know, don't, you know, try to get free bases and, you know, steal. You know, so I think there's a lot of things that you know baseball entails, but there's also so many like hidden little things that you know a normal fan would never notice. But yeah, I mean that's what makes the game fun, honestly. You know, I think when there's the competition is just, it's like every pitch is a competition, you know, and I think that's what's helped me, you know, get successful and be able to make it. It's just kind of, you know, every little detail matters, and every little pitch matters, and every little, you know, every inning. I mean, it's like I've seen so many games, you know, the team scores. I actually went to a playoff game last year in Philly. I was up living in Philly working with some pitching guys up there, and they went down like 5-0 in the first inning. And, you know, as to a normal fan, it's like, oh, it's over. But, you know, like the main thing of just competition is like you're never out of it. You're never gonna, you know, you don't give up in a sense. And just to watch, like, you know, obviously I spent a whole year playing baseball, and I went to a playoff game, and it's like, you know, going with the people I went with, it was like, oh, like it's just another baseball game, you know. But as a fan, you know, you watch it, and it's like, man, the second inning, their bats looked way better. Their demeanor looked way, like they had to dig back into it. And I think that's just what, like, I've come to realize, like, I enjoy about the game. You know, obviously, like, playing and winning is fun and all this stuff. But as a pitcher, when you see these little details and you're able to execute on them and able to, you know, like play a game within the game with yourself and win at that, I think it's like it makes it even more fun.
Is there ever a time when you place the ball right where you were supposed to place it and it just doesn't work?
Yeah, I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, we joke about that constantly, how you can make a good pitch and they'll get a hit, or you can make a terrible pitch and they'll get out or swing right through it, you know.
Sure.
There's been plenty of times I've thrown the ball right down the middle and they've gotten out, and then I'll execute one down and away, and it's like second nature to them. Just hit it off the wall. So
is when we think about the umpires, and they get a lot of flack, right? They're in high school, it seems like it's hard to tell where their strike zone is, and you just kind of have to figure out in the first few innings, like, okay, they're going to call just off the plate a strike or above the belt a strike. Mm-hmm. Is it refined in the majors? Or do you get to figure out the strike zone of that umpire as well? And there's a box on TV that's kind of showing.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Every umpire that we have, they have scouting reports on them. So, like, for example, in the coach's, you know, office, they'll have this big sheet, and it shows who the umpire will be the first night, second night, third night, and then the fourth game. And they'll put, this guy likes to call high more than often. He won't give any low pitches. It'll say at the bottom like how many times he's ejected the manager, stuff like that. So they know. I think our manager and our coaches kind of know like what to do. And I one thing I'll say about like just teams in general, like the catchers, they're just like they have to be on their game about where to call, where he's going to call it, what's going to happen. Little situations throughout the game where you think like maybe the umpire could try to take the game out of our hands, so we need to kind of capitalize on that.
Is the umpire is your catcher like a Peyton Manning or Tom Brady that can call their own pitches that they want, or are they looking?
So they'll usually do that. Yeah, the managers, like once you get into pro ball, like that's kind of like the catcher's like thing is just to like call their own game.
Wow.
Yeah. And honestly, pitchers like it better that way, because once you have a relationship, that goes way longer than obviously like everyone has good stuff there, everyone has the ability to be lights out, but if you have a great relationship with the catcher and like both of you guys are going to war with each other, then it makes it 10 times better. And I think that at the college level too, like that goes a long way.
So in high school, when we're seeing the whole do the sign from the coach to the catch, that sort of changes as you go up.
Yeah.
It becomes between you two there.
Yeah.
You ever see situations potentially where is there a time when the coach overrides and kind of goes, hey, I want this?
Yeah. I mean, there is. I would say for relievers, there is. You kind of like when I come into a situation, there's certain batters that I'll face in the lineup where it's like this is the exact. We do a lot of scouting reports and meetings before a series or whatever, but there's a lot of times when it's like, hey, if you come in the game against this guy in this situation, don't throw him this, and so.
You don't throw them that.
No. No.
Take me to give me a mound meeting. Major League Baseball. You're up on the mound.
Yeah.
And the coaches come out not to pull you.
Yeah.
But to talk to you.
Yeah.
What are they saying?
So for more times than not, when they come out, it's kind of like they see you scrambling a little bit. Okay. Maybe kind of like for me, there's a lot of times where I rush to the plate, where my delivery is a little off. I'm trying to rush. I'm trying to get going. And so a lot of times when I get a mound visit, it's like, hey, slow down, I'm giving you a breather. Just make this pitch. And that's it. And it's kind of funny, more times than not, whenever a coach comes out within the next like 2 or 3 pitches, I'm out of the inning. It's kind of funny.
It helps.
How that happened. Yeah.
Is there ever a funny mound meeting that you can remember? Or
there's been a lot at the minor league level, just because at that level, obviously you want to win and you want to be, but it's more about developing. Really, I think a lot of people, and true baseball fans understand, but a lot of people, the minor leagues is such a mystery to them. But for a lot of the best way I can explain it is the minor leagues is kind of teaching you how to be a pro while also developing what's going to get you to the pros. So. I mean, a lot of mound visits I've had in that sense I've had a lot of good coaches, man, a lot of good pitching coaches, a lot of good people that have been in my, my corner. So I think a lot of times it's just in the minor leagues, it was kind of like they would come up and be like, hey man, just throw a strike. Like, and it wasn't like a stern. It was just kind of like, hey man, like you're making this way harder than it has to be. And you're not smiling, A lot of times you're out there and you're trying to have fun, but sometimes you just won't. Like it just doesn't go your way sometimes. So I think just trying to enjoy the ups and downs is the biggest part of being a minor leaguer.
So Toronto, at some point, I think March of 2022, trades you to Oakland.
Yep.
How does that call happen? Did they call you before and say, hey, we're going to do something different?
Yeah, no. So we had the lockout last year where the MLB and the owners, like the players and the owners were kind of not arguing, but they were trying to reach a deal. Yeah. And so I think we were like 3 weeks behind on spring training. And so we finally reach a deal. I get to Dunedin and I'm there for like 3 days during spring. and I see on the TV, I was getting ready to go throw a live BP, which is basically like a game setting, but without any people in the field. So it's kind of just like I'm facing a batter just to fine tune things, what have you. So I'm getting ready for that, kind of just prepping my body for it. Just, kind of, I have breakfast, sit there, kind of, spring trains are pretty easy days. So I'm sitting there and I see on the TV that we had traded for Matt Chapman from the A's. And all of us are kind of joking, like, who's going to go? Who's leaving? And so you never think that you'll get traded. You never think that, and I'd had such a good year the previous year with the Jays. So I figured I would stick around for a little while. But, they called me in. It was kind of funny. Our pitching coach just said, hey, Curb, come here. And then immediately you're like, well, this has to be it. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong,
Right.
So, yeah, they called me in. They were like, hey, we're trading you to the Oakland A's. This is, just thank me. And obviously I spent 6 years there. So, it was funny. I woke up that morning in Dunedin, Florida, and by 4:00 that afternoon, I was on a plane to Arizona.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you're with the A's now.
Yeah.
And you've had a chance to try to get acclimated, I guess, if you will. Now, what's that like? You've gone. Toronto's a pretty big city, right? I think almost 3 million. Oakland's almost 500,000, and then San Francisco's right across the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
What's that like for people who don't know, you're a small town Florida boy. I mean,
Yeah.
you grew up
Yeah.
on a ranch
Exactly.
and a small school, and now you're going to big cities. You're a Major League Baseball player. You have some celebrity status. How do you handle that? How do you handle the pressures? You're pitching one night in Boston. Now you're traded. You're the lights. How do you handle all of that around you? The noise. How do you tune out the noise?
It's tough, just being from a small town. A lot of years I spent, slow. They were slow. They were just, this and that. Baseball was, baseball school. That's it. So now, I really enjoy the Bay Area. I never thought that I would, growing up in Florida and, California is so far away, and you never really think that, I'll visit one day, and I'll see it. But I've lived there for, last year I was there from March until September, and then this year I was there same time. So spending all that time out there, it's just I've gained an appreciation for just, obviously baseball, just how far it's taken me, how many things I've seen, all the people that I've met, all the relationships that I've built. So, but I really do enjoy the Bay Area. It's a great place. The weather is phenomenal. There's so many things to see. Napa Valley's like an hour from where we live, so we've gone there. San Francisco's 30 minutes, so I go there a lot. Just driving up and down the coast of California, it's amazing, man. It really is. And just to be able to see it and experience it, obviously while I'm out there, I'm focusing on baseball, and that's got my 100% attention. But there's a lot of days that, when we have off or, day games and stuff, I like to go to the city and get dinner or see things I haven't seen before, little attractions here and there. So it's really cool, man. And I to answer your question about like the fame and everything, I've never really, I wouldn't say noticed it, because I have, but I think for me, man, like my parents, I was so thankful for them. Like growing up, they just like, I've always taught me not to, treat people with respect, always, be a good person to whoever you meet. So I think obviously there's a lot of people that look up to me. So I think like that's another aspect of me trying to just stay in it and enjoy it, and, be a good role model for people, and, just being where I'm from, man, I'm so proud to be from here. Like there's so many people that have supported me and pushed me, So I think each year that I go back, that's another thing, when like sometimes when times get rough or a season, I'm kind of, struggling a little bit. I always think like how far I've come and how much I've achieved, and obviously I hope I play for a while longer, but just to look back on my my life, as a baseball player. I'm just super thankful for it, and hopefully I can play a little bit longer. But
There's fans and fanatics out there who would love the opportunity to. I'm on 2. Mm-hmm. Who would love the opportunity to do behind the scenes stadium tours, and for me, I'm a sports guy. I love so going to see Clemson and Duke play for me was like, just because I wanted to see Clemson. I like Dabo Swinney a lot. I want to see, when they're good, I want to see a Virginia Tech Clemson night game in Blacksburg. For baseball, I would love to see there's a Subway Series, right? The Mets and the Yankees.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see a Boston Yankees game, just because the history you hear about it. Even for a guy who does not watch baseball on a nightly, I keep up with you because your mom posts a lot of stuff. I was like, how's Kirby doing? And it's hard over here going, okay, when are they playing? When can I see them on TV unless I have some package? But you ever get, and like, you're doing a stadium tour in a way. I mean, you're getting ready to play, but you're going to see some of these iconic places.
No, I do that a lot, and that's like one of the things that I love to do while I'm there. Is so you usually get to the field pretty early when obviously there's no fans or the stadiums are empty. So I do a lot of times where I'll kind of sneak through the concourses and see if there's elevators all the way to the top, and I'll just look at the stadium from a view. I did that at Yankee Stadium. It was really cool. And even like just the Oakland A's and the San Francisco Giants, that series that we play, called the Bay Bridge series. That's the bridge that separates, And just to play that series, man, like I remember last year we played in San Francisco, and that's another thing about the Bay Area I never really understood is like it's so cold at night.
Oh, really?
Even in April. Like it's freezing. Like in San Francisco, it's right on the water, so the breeze is coming in. It's like 50 degrees every night. For a Florida kid, that's like freezing, Yeah. So just to be in that series is awesome, like just the history of baseball. Once you get up to that level, just the history and the things that have happened, I think like you just gain a whole new appreciation for the game. I mean, I do that a lot though. I try to go to every stadium. Every stadium we go to, I'll walk around the concourse. I'll see all the sights from things that I remember we played in Philly last year to start the season, and the visitors side clubby, who is basically like the equipment guy, basically handles all the everything ins and outs of the clubhouse. For the away team, he makes these Philly cheesesteaks that are like everyone says are the best in the city. Like every team like rants about them. So yeah, like just little things like that. You just like it makes you appreciate the game so much more. But
you have a lot of buddies you've played with in the pro ball, college, and high school.
Yep.
Stay in touch with some of your high school guys?
Yeah, I do. I try to meet up with them every time I get home. I talk to Lake a good bit. Trying to hang out with Leland. Just guys like that. I keep in touch with everyone. I'm pretty good about that. I try to stay up with everyone. It's sometimes tough, during the season because I'm on the West Coast with the hour change and stuff. But when I'm home, I'm always trying to connect with people.
Well, these folks are, probably a lot like you were growing up. I remember I do it a lot with Gator players that I've gone on, but in high school, players from our area that I've gone on to play pro ball. I remember when Lenny was playing, so I tried to watch him. I just knew that he was from Santa Fe. I didn't know him personally.
Yeah.
I went to school with his sister, but I'm like, I want to see him play because he's from Santa Fe. He's from our area of Florida, and so I know some of these guys and others do it for you. You don't probably realize you probably do, because I can tell you're. I've always known you, but you're a grounded guy. But just the little kids that are walking around that may have been maybe they were in 4th, 5th grade, and they know that Kirby Snead is in the pros, and he's from Santa Fe High School, and he's heard one of the coaches tell a story, or a travel ball coach, and you're like following you, and you don't even know it because they're it's inspiring, some connection. So
a lot of times, a lot of off seasons, I'll try to go over to Gator Ball, the travel team that I played for growing up, and just kind of say hello and see everyone. And there's a lot of kids that I've worked a lot of camps growing up too for them. In high school, I was trying to get the community service hours. So there's a lot of times I gave lessons or did camps and stuff. So just seeing those kids now, it's cool to see, I think I just try to be a positive light to everyone over there. Like a lot of kids I'll tell, like, when I was 12, 13, 14, I wasn't the best player on the field. I wasn't the best pitcher on the field, but I worked at it and, dedicated a lot of my time to it. And like I said before, I had a lot of people in my corner. So just giving them that kind of helps.
Sure. So Damon, I told you about Damon earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though he was a free agent, he didn't go. Let's see here. He sent me a text because I told him you were coming into the studio, and he said, "Ask him about the feeling of the clubhouse and the energy of it." I'm assuming he's talking about the team.
Yeah.
Do you guys hang out? Do you guys?
We do, yeah.
Okay.
It's really funny, during the season in the clubhouse, it's everyone has their little their routines, their little things that they do. So I'll say like being a reliever, it's a pretty easy job. Obviously there's times in the game I'm going to come in and it's a humongous situation and it's a lot of pressure. But I honestly, I tell a lot of people, it's like when I go into a game, I'm throwing let's say I'll throw the 7th inning and that's it. I'm out there for 8-10 minutes. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my day. So everything beforehand, I'm pretty laid back. So I like to have fun. I want to joke. I don't want to take life too seriously. When it's time to work, I'll work. But, I think the relationships that you make along the way go a lot farther than, me striking somebody out in the 7th inning. So that's like what he's asking is basically the clubhouse. It's a feeling you never want to like not have. Like right now I miss it. Like, I've been 2 weeks removed from the season, but I miss it. I miss like just hanging out with the guys, just sitting there, talking. And that's another thing. It's like when you meet people that are doing the same thing as you and you learn about their life, about their family, about where they're from, I think that's what makes a team, and that's what makes, a lot of people want to play. I think the main struggle that teams have, and the A's have had is just, kind of playing together. A lot of guys, there's a lot of times throughout seasons you sit there and you worry about your own career and your own stats and your own, what's going to happen. It's so easy to worry about your future when you're a professional athlete because you never know. But I think as you if you can get as comfortable as you can with the people around you and just, enjoy it for what it is, I think that's the main focus that I've tried to have. Obviously I'm going to work my tail off and I'm going to try to be the best pitcher I can be. But at the same time, if I can build these relationships with these guys and we can play together and we can, accomplish things together, it's way more enjoyable than trying to just, going out there to pitch and it's like, oh, I'm only worried about myself, so.
What's you mentioned people have their things like rituals.
Yeah.
Are there any like funny ones that you know of? Like it's like
there's so many, man. As a pitcher, pitchers are weird, man.
Okay.
Like for me, I'll shower. I always shower 30 minutes before the game. Like if I miss it, it's like I'm like I feel off. I'll shower, and then I'll sit in my locker for a little bit. Like I'll either read or I've been doing a lot of writing too, just kind of like things I think about or things I see, and just because my mind's always going, but then I'll forget like something that I thought about it. So, and there's always like when I'm warming up, I always do the same routine warming up. If I don't do the same routine, I'm kind of like feel off. Yeah. A lot of guys they do a lot of weird things. I never step on the foul line, like never. I can never step on it. Okay. Which is, that's a pretty common baseball one, but
I can kind of understand that though. Just I wouldn't do that.
It's always funny too when I go out to the mound to pitch, like when it's my time. I'm like observing the mound to make sure there's no like making sure it's wet. Like it's like my bed, like I got to make sure everything is good, and so yeah, little things like that. I think that, and to be honest, like doing those things I think it just kind of like calms you down because
Sure.
you know, like, okay, like this is where I'm supposed to be at. This is the time. Like, you know, I've done everything to prepare.
Mhm.
So I think it sounds weird, but it's like a lot of us are very, very superstitious. So we try to do the same thing. Don't want to, you know, mess up a routine or anything like that.
Is there like a time, like a night when you know, okay, I'm definitely not pitching tonight, that you hang out in the dugout versus the bullpen?
No, I mean, I like hanging out in the bullpen. Like it's kind of funny. Our team this year, um, so when a starter goes out, usually they try to go 5 innings.
Okay.
So the first 5 innings were kind of like down there, it's like a tailgate.
Yeah.
We're just sitting there hanging out, just doing. And so, you know, then when the 4th or 5th inning rolls around, then we start getting like, okay, like it's time. We'll probably come in. So this year and a little bit of last year too, we would do Family Feud in the bullpen. So there's 8 or 9 of us in there.
Okay.
So some guys don't want to play, you know, they kind of sit there and just want to relax. But it'll be like 3-on-3, and there's like, you know,
A
guy
host?
doing, yeah. And so we'll just do random questions. Like a question we have is like, you know, name the top 10 fantasy wide receivers this year. And so we'll do that.
Mhm.
Or we'll do like, you know, name the, you know, home run leaders for the National League, stuff like that. So we try to keep it relaxed, try to keep it, you know, fun. So
Yeah, with some people, and some people have their thing where they just have to be kind of like in this focus, like, but that for some people can overdo it and make you not as, you know, sometimes being relaxed. I'd want to be relaxed, not so
Yeah.
so tense that I'm overthinking it, and
Yeah.
versus coming out there going, okay,
yeah.
all right, now it's time.
I'm just like my mom when I think of every little situation that could happen within a game. And so I try not to sit there and do that
Sure.
because it can go spiral.
So I'm gonna take you back to Florida for a second. A quick story, and it's, you know, hopefully not too. I'm trying to be humble here, but you know, I announced some games, PA stuff, and Florida baseball called me in to announce one of your games. You were definitely on the team at the time, because I want to say either you talked to me, or something happened, and I'm not the normal announcer, so they had me come in. And all I know is before the game starts, I do some announcements, some reads, and some guy goes, "All I hear from somebody, hey, the I don't know if it was a man, not the man. No, it wasn't Sully. It was somebody else had said, hey, they think like a ball boy or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Somebody said, hey, man, they really like the guy that's announcing, because your normal announcer wasn't there. And so then we start getting into the game, and I'm like, you know, Matt Dendecker, and, you know, kind of getting into it or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I don't care. And I think an assistant coach ends up calling up in like the 5th inning. It's like, hey, whoever that guy is, they really like him down here. I'm like, that's a pretty good compliment. In the middle of the damn
Yeah.
game, you're doing, it's an SEC game too. They're calling up to the SID upstairs and going, hey, Ben, they like what you're doing. I'm like, oh, that's the first compliment I've ever actually had.
Yeah.
I mean, you get from some people going, oh, man, it was awesome. But
Yeah.
like to have the coaches in the middle of a game calling was really cool.
That's cool,
so,
man.
yeah, it was cool. And it didn't get me anywhere. It doesn't pay a whole lot.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
eh.
exactly.
And I got kids and a family and all that
Yeah.
stuff now. So, most memorable Major League Baseball moment today. If you had to pick one moment, it doesn't matter whether it's on the mound or whether it's hanging out in the stands with a family member or whatever. What would that be? That did you think of?
There's 2.
Okay.
So when I debuted in Fenway, just really cool moment, you know. A lot of good you know, things came up when I was out on the mound, just thinking about, you know, how many times I spent in this park as a kid, just watching, you know, hoping to be out there. And then second was last season. It was the last game of the year. I'd kind of struggled. You know, I'd had good spurts throughout the season, and I'd had bad spurts throughout the season. So it was very up and down, and it was my first full year in the big leagues. So, you know, it was expected. A lot of us were young, trying to figure it out. And I got to save on the last day of the year. So just like, you know, I think mentally it was just very cool, you know, to end the season like that, just knowing that I belonged. You know, a lot of times, you know, being from a small town, you know, obviously, like I'm a Major League Baseball player. You know, I've made it in a sense, but there's a lot of times that you doubt and you realize, you know, man, like this is gonna be harder than I thought, or, you know, this is gonna be a grind. And so I think I think that day it was kind of like I accepted that, you know, like no matter what happens, like I'm always gonna just work my butt off to just stay here, like I always have. I think sometimes when guys get up to the big leagues, they change their whole demeanor of things that they've done. And I think like I wouldn't say I did that, but at the same time, it was kind of like I was putting way more pressure on myself to perform because I knew how much it takes up here to perform. So I think just those two moments right there, it's just kind of like, just makes me super thankful and makes me super like, want more in a sense. So
you see yourself, right now you're in the middle of your career.
mm-hmm.
You see yourself thinking potentially like, what am I doing after my playing days? Do you have an idea of what you think? Would you stay involved somewhere somehow?
Yeah, I would definitely want to stay involved. As I've gotten older, I think, just seeing all the people that have been in my corner and helped me. And this is no shade to any of them, but it's like, for me, like I've played in the big leagues. I've seen a lot of things. I've learned a lot of things. I'm still young. I'm 28.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm soaking up all the information I can from people that I enjoy being around in the game, because one day I want to just pass it on to somebody else. Like that's my only goal. If it's coaching, if it's scouting, if it's, being in the front office or, working anywhere, like my goal probably, I would love to coach. I haven't finished school yet. So I think when, if I do finish it while I'm still playing, I'll be great. But whenever I go back, when I finish up at UF, I would love to coach there and just hang out, be around the program, coach, travel with the team and help the pitchers. But I have thought about it, but at the same time, I'm so focused on, the middle, like this next season and this, just trying to be the best player I can for the A's. So, yeah, I would definitely love to coach or get into something with baseball or, even honestly, I've had a lot of people on like the psychology side of it too, to help with guys that, deal with things. And, it's tough. Like, for me, I'm not married. I don't have kids, but some guys, they have families trying to do this. So it's a lot tougher for them, traveling so much, barely seeing your kids, not watching your kids grow up. So it's tough for them. So I think just having somebody in your corner, like I said numerous times, just having somebody that, is there and cares, That's the main thing. I think when I observed now, when I was a kid, I can look back and say, a lot of people, it wasn't really like if they were the best coach or they were the best this or that. It was just like people who cared about, Kirby Snead, people who cared about seeing me do better, getting better, achieving these things, people who actually cared about that. That's what got me the furthest, instead of, just some hard-nosed coach that was going to get in my butt about everything.
No matter what.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
It's like, what the hell's our
Yeah.
I coached 15 years, and so I saw coaches that it was more of a, for them, it was a power trip.
Yeah.
And their ability to tell somebody else what to do and try to, I don't know, push off crap onto them. All right, so I'll end it with this last question. Your advice to the high school, the middle school, even the elementary school player, the kid that's playing rec ball, who wants to make the majors, who wants to do it, what's your advice to them? What can they expect, and what do they need to do? Not everybody's going to make it, and they can do everything you're about to tell them to do to a T and still not make it. But what would you say?
Pretty common one that I give a lot of guys is I think what's helped me so much get to the level that I'm at is, slowing down and taking everything a day at a time. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I take it a day at a time. I'm trying to. There's a lot of days and a lot of times, and not even in baseball, but just in life that you're trying to rush everything. You're trying to achieve this. You're trying to do this. I need to do this. I need to this isn't my priorities aren't here. So I think as a high school kid, like you have no concept of time. Like you're just going. You're just doing things. So I think, one, taking it a day at a time, and then two, like just belief in yourself. A lot of times throughout my career and times that I've struggled and had, bad skirts of baseball, I think it's just, I'm losing faith in my abilities, and I think, I have a trainer here. I don't know if you ever heard of it, Numa Speed. It's Tim Montgomery, the old.
I've heard the name.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've worked out with him, from 2019 until now. Worked at his gym and stuff, and there's a guy right there that has had so many ups and downs. He was the world's fastest man, and then a year later he's in prison. So I think just being around people, and that's another thing I tell those like young guys is be a sponge to anybody and everything. And that's what I was. I was very quiet as a kid. I was very modest. I was very to myself. But any time that I got around somebody that I thought knew more than me, which they did,
right,
I absorbed everything that they said, because I wanted to be, obviously, like, my only goal growing up was playing the majors. That was the only thing I was worried about. I loved having friends. I loved doing things. I'm a normal kid. I like to be outdoors and fish and do all those things, but there was nothing else on my mind than trying to become a Major League Baseball player. So, like, I took it a day at a time. I like, when I got into pro ball, the years that I had that were special were the days that I just enjoyed every day. I did my routine. I went about my business. So it's a spread out answer, but
yeah,
I think the main message that I would give to anybody is just to take it a day at a time and to believe in yourself, really. Like, that's pretty much the only thing that I can really say. A lot of times throughout the season in the major leagues, there's times I've faced Bryce Harper. That's the best hitter in the game. I've faced Mike Trout. It's the best hitter in the game. And I think, for me to stay in the big leagues, I have to, know that I belong with those guys. They might be better than me. Yeah. Like, I'll admit they're probably better than me, but they make a lot more money than me. But, but at the same time, like, I belong here. I've worked my way here, and I deserve to be here, and I deserve to be in these moments. So I think for those kids, I tell them, like I said earlier in the podcast, it's like, I wasn't the best player when I was 12 years old. I wasn't above and beyond everybody else. I was in the middle of the pack. But the thing that separated me was that I dedicated every day of my life to getting better. I dedicated, my time to appreciating the grind, in a sense, and just trying to, make sure I didn't have any regrets about, when I look back on my career. There was no time that it's like, man, I didn't try hard enough. I didn't care hard enough. I didn't care. So, yeah, I think just trying to take it a day at a time and enjoy the moment, really.
That's you hear so many times people saying, "I wish I would have."
Yeah,
I wish I would have, and you may have done that a little bit with UF, with looking back doing that, but you're not doing it now in the pros, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper, did you strike him out or anything?
He flew out, which was nice.
Dude, you got to get that ball right. Hey, guys, hold that ball for me.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man. No, all that's cool. Well, I'm proud of you, man. I appreciate you coming on.
No, I thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah. And go Jags.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Kirby Snead, I Know a Guy podcast. Thanks, man. Appreciate
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.